Hey folks, this is Mary. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am continuing on with my blue ink journey. Today I am going to talk about May, my month of blues too, where I explored my blue ink samples. And you can see some of my blue ink samples in my rack here. So I have quite a few of them. I think that might be all of them, maybe. Nope, there's a few more over here on the table, so never mind. But the ones that I worked with in May are in this rack. And this was the journal that I was writing in for April, where I had my list of inks. And then I filled this one up with all of my writing. So then I had to move on to a new journal. So for May, I tried the Exceed notebook. The first time I've used one of these. Oh, can you see that? Yeah, there we go. It says Exceed. And I've got it in this little traveler's notebook cover that I bought at Tuesday morning, and I love this cover so much. So, well, I don't guess I have to take it out of the cover. We'll just leave it in there. So, actually, you can see my two bookmarks here. This bookmark is for May, and this bookmark is for June. But we'll get to June later. So today we're going to be talking about May. So I just wanted to go through my swatch cards and talk about my samples a little bit. And I don't know if you guys want to see the actual sample vials, because, you know, they just look like sample vials. I guess I can show you where I got them from. Like this one came from Van Ness. I do enjoy getting samples from Van Ness. They have a huge selection of inks available for samples. They give you a generous 4 milliliter amount, and the shipping is pretty quick. So those are all good things. Okay, so May 1st, we had Ferris Wheel Press Jelly Bean Blue, and I've had my eye on these Ferris Wheel Press inks for a long time. Oh, and I need to make sure I stay in the frame this time. Good heavens. I kept getting out of the frame last time. Okay. Oops, I'm going to put a ruler down here. Where's the ruler? Okay. So now I know I have to be above the ruler. Okay. So I've had my eye on the Ferris Wheel Press inks for a while, and I finally decided to get some samples. So this was the first one of the samples that I tried, Jelly Bean Blue. And this is exactly the kind of ink that I love. It's that vibrant blue with some red sheen. Oh, it's so pretty. And again, when I was writing in my journal, I didn't make notes on anything, and I'm so sorry that I didn't, because, you know, it's helpful to look at writing samples, but it's also helpful to have notes from what your experience was like. But anyway, this was day 1. All right, day 2, May 2nd, we have Colorverse Quasar, and I love Colorverse inks. I have several different ones, and I have enjoyed all of them. They're just beautiful, vibrant, saturated inks. This one I got from Goulet Pens, and I can tell from this label, some of my samples have these solid label dots on them. Those were the first samples I ever got. So I know this is an old one. Now, more recent samples, I've been putting the little page reinforcers, the little hole reinforcers, so they are like a donut-shaped dot, and then I have the solid dots. So this is an old sample, and this is a new sample. Oh yeah, this is the one that I just showed, the Jelly Bean Blue. So yeah, this is an old one that I hadn't used before, the Colorverse Quasar, and I don't know why I was never, I was afraid, I guess, of using my samples. I don't know. So this was a very good challenge for me this month, using my samples. But it's a really dark, you could arguably call this purple. It's a really dark royal blue, purpley blue, or you could call it well, I guess we should call it a blurple. It's a bluish purple or a purplish blue, but very beautiful. I really enjoyed this one. Oh, and it has that sheen to it. It's kind of almost an orangey sheen. Can you guys see that? Very interesting. I'm just fascinated by sheen. Okay. May 3rd, we have Robert Oster Lake of Fire. And this one came from Pen Chalet. Now, Pen Chalet, they put their own little colored dots on the top. And I'm never sure if the dots, I don't know how they make their dots. So I think you could see a little spot right there. I kind of scribbled on the lid just to see how the color compared. But this was one of the first Robert Oster samples that I used. And this is beautiful. It's a beautiful dark teal with lots of red sheen. And you may have heard me say before, I bought one disappointing bottle of Robert Oster ink, the Frankly Blue, which it's not that it's a bad ink, it just wasn't what I was expecting. But now I'm a little bit nervous about buying another bottle of Robert Oster ink. So I have many, many Robert Oster samples, and I've really been enjoying them, and this one is very beautiful. So this one is definitely a contender. All right, day 4. We have another Robert Oster ink, and I had to watch myself when I was doing this because I could have done a whole week of Robert Oster inks in a row if I wasn't careful. So there are a few days when I have a couple of Robert Oster inks together, but that's okay. This is Robert Oster Bondi Blue, and this is one that I've had my eye on for a long time. I've looked at swatches of it online, and I thought it was just beautiful. And I got this one at Pen Chalet, and they put their little dot on the top. And this wasn't exactly what I was expecting. It's much lighter, it's much more turquoise, and in my opinion from the swatches, it was looking like a much darker blue. You know, like one of these blues that I tend to go for, the dark bright blue with the red sheen. So again, this was just unexpected. It's not a bad ink. It's not that I don't like this ink. It just wasn't what I was expecting. So I've been thinking for a long time that I definitely wanted to get a bottle of this, and I might eventually, but I don't think this will be my next Robert Oster purchase. But still very nice turquoise ink with some lovely red sheen to it. Very pretty. All right, day 5 is this cute little guy here. You might recognize this little sample vial. This is one of my Troublemaker inks. This is Blue Guitar. And again, this is that kind of blue that I just love, that bright blue with the red sheen. Kind of reminiscent of the Jelly Bean blue, but Jelly Bean is a little bit darker. But I thought this ink was just gorgeous. I love it. And if I ever get the chance to buy a bottle of this, I will definitely get some. Because it is so beautiful. And it's exactly the kind of ink that I like. It's just the color that I like. Do I have other inks that are similar to this color? Yes, I probably do. Do I need to buy this ink? I don't. But someday, if I get the chance, I probably will. It's beautiful. And I love Troublemaker inks. Can you see the shading in the writing up here? It's probably hard to pick it up on the camera, but it's beautiful. I love shading. Shading is my favorite ink property. And these little sample vials are too small to fit in my sample rack, so I'm just going to set him to the side. All right, so for day 6, we have Monteverde Monza. I'm sorry, no, that was the pen that I used that day. We have Kobe number 50 Kumachi Blue. And this one I got from Anderson Pens. And you could see it sloshing around in the vial there. That is beautiful. Now, comparing the ink in the vial with the ink on the swatch card, it looked much lighter in the pen than I thought it would. And I thought the ink was going to be more this color, but when I wrote with it, it was more that color. So much less saturated than I was expecting. Still nice. I still liked it, but I would have preferred it if it had been a little more vibrant. See, I made the little swatch on the top. And I was expecting the ink in the pen to look like this and not so much like that. But still very pretty. And I'm very interested in these Kobe inks. I only have a few samples of those. All right, day 7. And I have to tell you, for day 7, I used my Schaefer R2D2 pen. I love that pen so much. It's so adorable. But this is Califolio Bleu Pacifique. And I'm really interested in this ink. I'm really interested in these inks because I heard Wasky Squirrel say on his channel that Califolio inks were, they were created to be gentle enough for vintage pens. They were formulated for vintage pens. So I have looked into them a little bit more, and it seems like that's true. And I have just started a vintage pen collection. So as much as I appreciate the gentleness of my Waterman Serenity Blue, I would like to try some different inks in it. So as soon as I get brave enough to put another ink in my vintage pens, it'll probably be a Califolio ink. But this one is very pretty. It's that light turquoise with some red sheen. Very nice. And of course I have plenty of turquoise inks, but this one's beautiful too. And probably my favorite turquoise ink is Navajo turquoise. I don't know how much red sheen that has to it. It might have a little bit, but it's just a beautiful, vibrant color. All right, the next one, this is for day 8. May 8th, we had Rohrer and Klingner Blue Mare. And Rohrer and Klingner is another brand that I haven't used a lot of, so I've been wanting to explore them more. And I don't know what it was about this ink, but it just did not appeal to me. I wrote with it, what pen did I use? I used my Jinhao 992 with this ink, which, you know, generally I get good performances out of that pen when I'm trying out different inks. But I just didn't like this one. And it was pretty similar to the one from the day before. And I can't put my finger on it. This one I thought was pretty, and this one I just thought was, I don't know. But again, if you're interested in turquoise inks, this might be one that you would be interested in. It does have some nice shading, but there was just something about the color that just didn't do it for me. But this is why we get samples, because the swatches I saw online looked beautiful, and I couldn't wait to try it, and then I did try it, and it just didn't work for me. And that's okay. We have to try things out to see what we like and what we don't like. Alrighty, so the next one that we have for day 9, this was Monteverde Capri Blue, and this one I got from Goulet Pens. And again, this is that color that I enjoy so much, that bright blue with the red sheen, and I really, really enjoyed working with this one. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that a bottle of it might have found its way into my collection. So yes, these are the giant 90 milliliter Monteverde bottles. I have a bottle of California Teal in this size, so those 2 bottles will last me for years and years, but I enjoy other inks as well. So yes, this one definitely made a big impression on me, and I just had to get a bottle of it. And the Monteverde inks are, you know, reasonably priced. They're easy to clean. I really enjoy using them, so I was very happy to add this one to my collection. All right, and for day 10, we have KWZ Standard Azure number 5. And KWZ is another brand that I've been really interested in trying out. And this one is beautiful. And like Robert Oster, I would like to purchase some KWZ inks, you know, purchase some bottles of it, but I'm just not sure which one I want to go with first. So, and I got this one from Van Ness. Again, they have those lovely generous samples. And this was just a beautiful ink to write with, some lovely red sheen on it. So this one's a contender for my first KWZ ink. We'll see. All right, for day 11, we have Colorverse Depth. And this one I got from Goulet. And again, I really enjoy the Colorverse inks. I do have several. Colorverse Supernova is one of my favorite inks. And I don't know, this one might be, I might be adding this one to my collection. But have you seen those cute little, I think they're little 5 milliliter bottles that Colorverse has put out now, and I think all of their inks are available in those cute little bottles. Oh, they're just adorable, but I think they're about $6, which seems kind of expensive. So when I first saw them, I thought, yes, I want to get them all. But then I'm thinking, $6? Actually, I'm sorry, they might be $6.99, which means that they're $7. So, I don't know. It's a little pricey, but this was a beautiful, beautiful ink. Yep. Okay. All right, so day 12, we have Pelikan Turquoise. And I had this in my Lamy All-Star Pacific Blue, which was just a beautiful match. I just loved it. And this sample came from Goulet Pens, and Pelikan is another ink brand that I've been using more lately because it's a good ink for vintage pens, or I have been told it's a good ink for vintage pens. So I've been looking at some different turquoise inks. I have a bottle of the Royal Blue currently, and I'm looking at getting maybe another bottle of the Pelikan ink for my vintage pens. So that one is very nice turquoise and some nice red sheen on it. All right, day 13, we had Robert Oster School Blue, and I thought the name was interesting, School Blue. To me, that sounds like a standard blue, kind of a boring blue, but I didn't think this blue was boring at all. It's definitely got a little bit of a teal tone to it, and it's got some lovely sheen, and it's got a little bit of shading too. I really enjoyed writing with this one. So that one might be another contender for a bottle purchase for me. All right, day 14, we have Diatramentis Indigo Blue. I only have a couple of Diatramentis bottles. I have Alexander Hamilton and I have Sky Blue Myrrh, which is a very light turquoise. So I wanted to try some darker Diatramentis colors, and this one just didn't do a whole lot for me. I mentioned I've been exploring some of my darker inks and I've been learning to appreciate my darker inks, but I don't know what it is about this one. It's just, it's a perfectly nice looking ink. It's a beautiful color. It's got some nice red sheen on it, but I don't know. This one's just not speaking to me. Do your inks speak to you? Mine speak to me all the time, and I'm not hearing much out of this one. All right, next we have another Robert Oster ink. I got this one from Pen Chalet, and this is Blue Water Ice. And I was flipping through my journal the other day, and a page really caught my eye, and it was this ink. It's a turquoise with some red sheen, but it has the most amazing shading when I wrote with it. And I used a TWSBI Go with a fine nib. Oh, excuse me, I just bumped the camera. It was a TWSBI Go with a fine nib, and you wouldn't think you'd get a lot of shading out of a fine nib, but this ink was gorgeous in that pen. So again, this one is at the top of my list. So I'm thinking probably this will be the first one that I buy, because it was just a delight to write with. All right, next we have a Birmingham Pens ink. I did order a few samples from Birmingham Pens a year or so ago, back when they still had their samples available. And of course I got several different blues and several other different colors as well. And this is Panther Blue. I didn't write down the whole name. It just says Panther Blue on the sample, but of course all the Birmingham Pens have longer names that point to different bits of Pittsburgh history. So I only know this one as Panther Blue at this point. But this is a nice, soft, kind of less saturated blue, and it does have some nice red sheen to it. But I think I would like my blue to be a little bit more vibrant than this. It looked kind of pale in my pen. All right, day 17. We have another Califolio, which I got from Van Ness. And this is Califolio Bleu Mediterranee. I hope I'm saying that correctly. And this is another light turquoise, and it seems very pale on the swatch card, but when I wrote with it, it was a little bit darker. And ever since I've been using those Troublemaker inks, I swear every ink has different colored shading to it. So this one, I would swear it looks like it's got some purple shading in there, but it's probably just my eyes playing tricks on me. I don't know if you guys can see that very well. But very interesting ink, very pretty. It's got some red sheen going on a little bit. So that one is a nice turquoise. And of course it's always fun to watch the ink slosh around in the vial. All right, next we have Organic Studio Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I think I've talked about this one before. This was one of my first samples that I ever bought, and it seems really thick. I don't know. I don't know much about these Organic Studio inks. I do have a bottle of nitrogen. I don't use it very often. The nitrogen has so much red sheen that it just doesn't appeal to me. I don't like that much red sheen on my ink. But when I was trying to write with this Ralph Waldo Emerson, it just seemed really thick. And it does have some really interesting shading on the card, but again, I don't know if that's because the ink is getting old or if it's supposed to look like that. But the dark teal underneath all the shading and the sheen, it is very pretty. It's a very pretty ink, so maybe I need to get another sample to compare and see if this sample really is getting old. All right, next we have Vinta Inks, Dugong Baga. And Vinta is another ink brand that I would like to explore. I've seen some videos of this online, and I thought it just looked amazing. And I know I just said I don't like too much red sheen on my inks, but this one is so beautiful. It does have a ton of red sheen, but I love it. And kind of similar to the Ralph Waldo Emerson. But this ink is beautiful. So I definitely need to add a bottle or two of Venta to my collection. There's several of these Venta inks that I'm really interested in. And there's actually one that I got, I think it's called Mascara. And I got a sample of it, but that's more of a purple ink. And I've been doing blue inks for months now, and I haven't had a chance to use the mascara yet. So when I get a chance to use the mascara, I'm going to put that one in my pen. But this ink is beautiful. All right, next we have another Robert Oster. And this, excuse me, this came from Pen Chalet. And this is Soda Pop Blue. And this is a bright, beautiful blue with some red sheen. And again, this one was a real pleasure to work with. The Robert Oster inks are really nice inks. So, I think Fire and Ice, I'm sorry, not Fire and Ice. I think Blue Water Ice is still at the top of my list, but this Soda Pop Blue is definitely a contender for a future purchase. All right, next we have Papier Plume, Forget Me Not Blue. And if I'm not mistaken, I think this is my first Papier Plume ink. And this one came from Van Ness. And it's kind of it's almost purple. It's Forget Me Not Blue, but it looks like a pale purple. And again, this wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a bluer color and not this purple. And it's not a bad color, but it's just not what I think of when I think of Forget Me Not Blue. So if you're interested in purple inks, I mean, would you call that maybe a lilac? I don't know. But it was a nice ink to write with. A little pale, a little light in the pen, but not bad. But I definitely need to try some more Papier Plume inks. All right, and this is day 22. We have Ferris Wheel Press Tanzanite Sky, and I debated about including this one. It's, again, like the Forget Me Not Blue, it's almost purple, or maybe it is purple, but I thought that, you know, that could be up for debate, and if I wanted to include a purplish ink in my blue samples, that I could, but I really wanted to try this one out, and it is amazing. It's a beautiful dark purple. It has red sheen, and actually right here, there's some green sheen going on. So this looks like it's sheening in two different colors. Can you see that? There's some orange up here, and then down here, it's green. My goodness. I just don't know how they do that. Ink manufacturers are amazing. But yeah, this one was really fun to work with. I really enjoyed it. All right, day 23, the infamous Bay State Blue. And again, this was one of the first blues one of the first samples I ever bought. I think I got a sampler from Goulet Pens. I bought several sample sets when I first got into pens, so I would just have some different inks to play around with. But then I heard all these horrible things about Bay State Blue, and I was terrified to put it in a pen. So this is actually the first time I have ever put Bay State Blue in a pen. I used it in a Pilot Kakuno with a medium nib, and I wrote with it a little bit, and then I immediately washed it out because I was just so scared of it. But it is beautiful. I mean, it really is as vibrant as everybody says it is. Just look at that color. Vibrant color and some nice sheen. It's a very nice ink. So again, I've heard if you want to use it, to just dedicate a pen to it and don't worry about the staining. So I might do that someday, but not right now. And I still have quite a bit of a sample left to work with if I get brave enough to put in a pen again. We'll see. All right, day 24. We have Califolio Bleu Ultramarine. And this is a darker turquoise, and I think I like this much better. I had the Bleu Mediterranee and the Bleu Pacifique before, and they were much lighter, but I think this one, the shade of it just appeals to me more, the darker color. And I don't think it has quite as much red sheen as the other two, but I'm okay with that. I like a little bit of sheen with my ink, not a little bit of ink with my sheen. So this one really appeals to me. So as far as Califolio inks, this one might be going on my list of future purchases. All right, day 25. We have, whoops, he's trying to get away. We have Robert Oster Fire and Ice, and this sample came from Pen Chalet. And this is a beautiful darker turquoise color. I don't know, would you call that a dark turquoise or a light teal? Anyway, very, very interesting color. Some nice red sheen on it. Very nice ink. But again, I think I like the Blue Water Ice better than this one. But Robert Oster just has so many beautiful inks to choose from. All right, day 26. Oops, am I out of order? Okay, hold on. There's fire and ice. Okay, I just pulled from the wrong row. Whew, okay, I thought I had everything in order. All right, so what is this? Day 26. We have Rohr and Klingner Königsblau. And this is another one that I thought the swatches of it online looked so beautiful, but it seems a little bit lighter in person than what I would like. I think writing with it was nice. And again, I wish I had taken some notes about my writing experience, but the swatch seems really light. The writing here on the card is about what I was expecting. But this is a nice ink, and I could probably test this one out a little bit more before I draw any conclusions about it. All right, let's see, what do we have next? We have Pilot Iroshizuku Kujaku, and that is, I'm sure I'm saying that name wrong, but it's so much fun to say, Kujaku, or Kujaku. Wasn't that a planet in Star Wars? Isn't that where Rey was from? Wasn't she from Jakku? Anyway, I digress. This one actually turned out much greener than I thought it would. I was thinking it was, well, it's a teal. It's one of those debatable teals. Is it more blue or is it more green? But it's very nice. Has a little bit of red sheen to it. And, oh, this one came from Goulet. So that one is nice. And I love the Iroshizuku inks. I have several of them, and they're all very pleasant to write with. All right. Day 28. We have Bungabox Hatsukoi First Love Sapphire. And I'm sure you've heard of this one before. This is one of those dupes of the Parker Penman Sapphire. And like many other pen users, I have been dying to get my hands on some of the Parker Penman Sapphire for many months. It hasn't exactly been years. But recently I've heard about that ink, that it's kind of not corrosive to your pens, but it's hard on pens. So that really turned me off. So I'm not on the hunt for Parker Penman Sapphire anymore. But there are these beautiful deep bright blues with the red sheen. There's plenty of those around, and I am very happy to use those, and I don't want the Parker Penman Sapphire anymore. And just for fun, here's the Jelly Bean Blue again. I'm really enjoying that one. But yes, again, we can see that there are lots of these beautiful blues with the red sheen, so the Parker Penman Sapphire, we can just, or I can just set him aside. But I've really enjoyed this one, and Bungabox inks are really high quality inks, but they're really pricey, so I will enjoy my sample, and I don't intend to buy a bottle anytime soon unless I can find a really good sale on one. All right, next we have Noodler's Liberty's Elysium, and of course this came from Goulet because it's a Goulet exclusive. And again, you can tell from this label that this was one of my early samples. And again, I've never had this one in a pen, and I don't know why. It's such a beautiful blue. So I might need to add a bottle of that to my collection. We'll see. But I really enjoyed it. It's just a beautiful bright blue. And I had this one in a Genhao 51A. And I really enjoyed writing with it all day. And of course, the Noodler's inks are very economical. Okay, I didn't realize it, but my camera had cut off. So let's back up for a moment. We were on, let me see, day 30 when the camera cut off. Make sure you guys can see that. So it looks like there was a typo on the label. This is Kobe number 2 Hatoba Pure Blue, but on the label it says Katoba with a K. But I looked it up online, and it's with an H, Hatoba Blue. And I actually discovered that when I was trying to put my samples on the fountain pen companion, and it couldn't find this ink. And I realized it wasn't spelled with a K, it was spelled with an H. But anyway, all of that aside, I am back to finish out our month of blues, too. So this is the Kobe number 2 Hatoba Pure Blue, and I got this from Anderson Pens. And this one is beautiful. It's that beautiful dark blue that I love with the red sheen. And I really enjoyed working with this one. And again, I didn't put a lot of notes, hardly any notes, in my journal. But on this one, I wrote lovely. And it is lovely. And I think the only other one I put a note on was the Venta inks, the Dugong Baga, and I wrote, wow. So obviously those were two of my top inks for the month. Okay, so that was day 30. And then our last day, day 31, I had Califolio Omi Osun. And I think I like this one better than the other two Califolio inks that I had, the Bleu Pacifique and the Bleu Mediterranee. They were both more turquoise, and this one is more of a true blue. And it's kind of a softer color, a less saturated color. It does have a little bit of sheen to it, so it's very nice, and it was pleasant to write with. I use this in my TWSBI Go with the fine nib, so it would probably look better, have more sheen to it if I use it in a broader nib, but I do need to get some broader nibs. I pretty much have mediums and fines. I might have a broad nib, I don't know. And I have a stub on one of my Goes, but I hardly ever use it, so I need to get my TWSBI Go with the stub nib out and try using that. But anyway, that is all of our inks for May, the month of blues too. And gosh, I kind of wanted to talk about which ones were my favorites, but it's so hard to pick. Obviously, I liked the Capri Blue enough that I bought a bottle of it already. And I really enjoyed the Hatoba Pure Blue, I really enjoyed the Dugong Baga, and I really enjoyed the Jelly Bean Blue. So I might be adding those to my collection at some point. Please let me know which of these inks you thought were the prettiest, and if you have any of these inks, if you've used them and what you think about them, and tell me what kind of blue inks you like to write with. And I will see you again soon for the wrap-up of my 91 inks, 91 days. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.